Hey guys, I'm Sean.
And I'm Jim. And together we face off in cross country food wars.
Absolutely. Now today, the challenge is whitefish. I believe we both selected cod. Now cod was not my original choice. My original choice was to use a flounder. Unfortunately, the shortages got the best of me, and it appears that most of my local grocers were out of flounder. So ended up with cod after going through a couple of other options, and I think Jim used cod as well. Now we took two different approaches here, I believe, and excited to show you guys what we came up with.
Yeah.
We're going to go with. Oh, good.
I was going to say, we're going to do Sean's first, but my approach was cod. Well, that's fish and chips, pure and simple. A beer battered fish and chips.
Whereas I did a pan-seared cod with a corn and bacon mixed veg. I call it a succotash in the video because it kind of reminds me of how you typically present a succotash, but it's missing a few key elements to be a true succotash.
So you might say it's a suffering succotash.
Yeah, it's a suffering succotash. Yeah, there's properly it should have beans, some sort of beans, and it should have okra properly to be succotash, but I don't like okra, so I use corn and bacon as my base.
Yeah, I think corn and lima beans is the traditional.
Yep, and most people have some okra in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. My video is short, and I'm gonna forewarn that I did not get the sear I wanted on my fish, and I changed the plating at the end to reflect that because we eat with our eyes, and the dish was still delicious despite not having a pretty sear on it, and I elected to put my succotash on top instead of on the bottom because of that reason.
Let's let the fun commence.
Hey guys, today I'm going to be making a pan-seared flounder and a mixed corn and bacon kind of veg. I call it a succotash. I know it's not technically a succotash. There's some elements missing there. But it's essentially a mixed vegetable. So I've already done a lot of the prep work here ahead of time. It's going to have onion, jalapeno, corn, garlic and tomato, and bacon, of course. And that's going to be our bed for our seared cod. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. First thing we're adding in is obviously stuff that needs to cook the longest. And that's going to be our jalapeno. I'm sorry, I still didn't hear you.
I said you can't go wrong with jalapeno.
Yeah, I typically would go poblano, but there was jalapenos in my fridge, so I did jalapenos.
Go for it.
And our peppers. A poblano's a little more flavorful than a jalapeno, and to me, that's why I would typically go that route. But and that's being seared off in the bacon grease that I cooked the bacon off in.
Of course. That's right. Show it off.
And we're gonna go ahead and get our corn. I'm proud of my time lapse.
This is just a frozen corn. With corn, it doesn't really make a difference.
With
most of my ingredients, I prefer to go fresh, but the corn itself,
frozen corn is one of
the pre-separated
corn,
frozen corn.
Yeah, corn is one of those things that does not seem to degrade at all when you freeze it, unless you freeze it for a million years. Obviously, then it turns to shit.
Yeah, peas are the same thing. And for that matter, chopped spinach
is really, really handy in this situation. This is also the point at which we're going to get our seasoning blend put in. And this is just salt, black pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika. That's all we're adding to this.
I mean, correct. That's a lot of smoked paprika. There's a little salt, quite a bit of black pepper, and a lot of smoked paprika. And the reasons I went with those measurements is because
I didn't need a ton of spicy because I had jalapenos, and I didn't need a ton of salt because I had bacon.
Yeah. Although
All these vegetables
you didn't use any Old Bay.
Say that again.
I'm a bit surprised you didn't add any Old Bay to it.
Old Bay has garlic too, and I'm using minced garlic, and I think it has onion powder in Old Bay too. And I just, so for me, I'm a control freak.
Okay, it didn't bring anything to the party.
It wouldn't have brought anything new, and it would have taken away my control over how much of each thing I put in. Right? I knew how much onion I wanted. I knew how much garlic I wanted, and if I'd started adding Old Bay, and I think Old Bay is just regular paprika. It's not smoked paprika, unless I'm wrong. So, which I could be wrong. I'm not always right, but I don't think that it's.
Well, Old Bay is primarily cayenne and celery seed.
Right. I just realized our branding was wrong there. So I fixed it. We had the Bloody Hook branding up still. I just fixed it.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah. Anyways, their own very strong flavors, and we don't want to mess with that too much. Just enhance it a little bit. We also went kind of light on the salt because we're going to also add bacon, which is salty by nature. Okay, guys. Now
see that kind of sauce almost that's building up in the bottom of that.
You can see that starting to incorporate nice and good.
That's what's going to flavor the heck out of my fish.
We're going to go ahead and get our cod going. In order to do that, now we do have some olive oil, kind of an infused olive oil with herbs and like sun-dried tomatoes on there already. But we're also, of course, going to season it with some salt. I'm using a pre-mixed bologna seasoning.
So I am using a premix here, which I'm typically against. However, it was a gift, so I have to use it. Otherwise, I'm a jerk. Especially since it's a gift from the person holding the camera.
Yes,
but no, seriously. It's the bologna seasoning that I'm using is literally just salt and herbs. It's salt. I believe there's some marjoram in there. Some parsley, things like that. Just a bunch of green herbs and salt, which is perfect for seared fish. So, I found my opportunity to use it and not just let it sit there, you know.
Right.
As a rule, I'm basically against pre-mixed seasonings, but in this case, because it's just like an herbal blend with salt, I'm gonna roll with it.
We're gonna get some flames here.
Yeah.
Plus, it was a gift. It'd be rude not to use it, right?
Yeah. I'd say that's hot.
Yeah, it's a little too hot, and that may have contributed to my sear not coming out the way I wanted. It's stuck on me a little bit, which that never happens in my kitchen. Everything's so well seasoned and everything.
Now that these onions and
you know they do have a thing called an infrared thermometer
for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm gonna
get our tomatoes down in here.
An infrared thermometer is on my list. And my girlfriend is aware of an infrared thermometer being on my list, which means I'm very likely to get one soon. Because she doesn't let me go without toys that I want for very long. She just, if I don't pull the trigger on one, she'll do it for me.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Girl loves me. Not entirely sure why, but she does.
And they bring some nice acidity. I've also got my garlic mixed into that.
Also makes it really pretty, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the tomatoes actually add a lot.
And our fish are
fun fact, tomatoes are one of the few places where MSG naturally occurs.
Okay.
Seaweed and tomatoes are two of the main places where it naturally occurs.
Right.
Just cooking away on the skillet there. I mean, on the cast iron there.
Looks good right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I said, it tore up on me a little bit. It still tasted good, but I was not happy with my presentation on this dish, which is highly unusual. Usually, the things I played up are aesthetically pleasing, so I was a little annoyed.
We're just going to go ahead and get that bacon into there. We waited till the end because this adds some texture for us. That way we have nice crunchy bacon kind of peeking in and all that softness. And we're just getting it all plated up here. We got our fish on here, and then we're getting our succotash plated up.
Yeah, I see how you didn't show the sear.
Cut down
Yeah, I didn't want to look at it, man. It bothered me.
You get a nice hit of that succotash too. And dinner is served. Enjoy.
Wow.
Looks good though, right?
It does look good. I'll give you that. It's still pretty.
Yeah. Well, that's because I didn't.
Well, I would like to have seen that sear though. It's not too often that I can catch you out on something.
Well, you know, I called myself out on it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
I admitted that it was a bad sear, and that for presentation purposes, I decided not to show it on camera. But I will assure you that fish was as white as a sheet of paper, and I was not displeased. I was distraught about it. I was like, I was very upset.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah. So,
I could tell.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get into yours now, and let's see what you got here.
Mine is your classic beer batter fish and chips with British style chips.
What are you going into the oven for?
Yeah. Well, since we're doing chips, I start out my chips with baked potatoes.
Okay.
This is a recipe that basically I caught on an Alton Brown Good Eats episode, where he bakes them either the day ahead or that morning. Just take medium-sized potatoes, throw them in a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. You don't want them done. I actually cook these up to about 175, whereas a baked potato is actually done at when it's 205 to 210, like so many other things.
Oh, clean your oven, man.
Right. You're as bad as Val. Actually, it's Val that dirties it up, not me. But
I believe you, but come on, man.
Anyway, so anyway, that morning I went ahead and made the par baked the potatoes. After they came down to room temp, I put them in the fridge to firm up a bit so I could cut them easier later. Now for the batter.
Okay.
A lot of recipes or offhand recipes say equal amounts of flour and beer. And that's never come out right for me. I've always had to add more beer. So just for kicks, I weighed out a cup of flour. This came out to be about 125. And then I added 125 grams of beer.
Okay.
And it was way too thick. So I don't know what they mean by equal amounts. I wound up using a full 12-ounce can of beer for about 8 ounces of flour.
So it's one of those things where everybody has different preferences with regards to the thickness of their batter.
Yeah, I think it ought to be.
That's definitely too thick, though. What I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I wound up using an old can, and the consistency I like for this is that of, say, a thin pancake batter.
Yeah.
I want it to coat consistently. I want it to run off with drain nicely, but still leave a lot in place. Now, this actually wound up being just a tad too thin, so I had to add about another 1/8 of a cup of flour.
Makes sense.
Yeah, 1/8 of a cup, maybe 3/16 of a cup. You'll see where I just eyeball it. I was getting the scale out of there since I didn't need it anymore. It's easier to mix. I also added my salt at this point, and I use about 1.5 tablespoons of salt because I didn't want it too salty.
You'd never find me with those scoops. You've been in the kitchen with me before, though.
Yeah, but I figured I'd go ahead and prove I was actually using how much rather than just pouring it there in my hand saying, yeah, it looks about right, which is what I always do.
That's what I always do too. I season until my ancestors tell me it's enough.
And as you can tell, that's a little bit too thin. So I'm
gonna. That's about how I would go. Actually, I don't think I'd add more. I think I'd let that sleeping dog lie if I were you.
Yeah, gave it a lot of pepper. Well, you see at the end when I'm done, it actually did need a bit more. That's just a little bit too thin for what it should have been. Because this same batter works great for onion rings.
I'm noticing no egg.
That'll come in later.
Okay.
Right
an
now,
egg thickens it up just a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, what I'm doing right now, just making the base batter, as it were. Now, this is going to sit for 3 hours. And just let the flour hydrate and everything marry it. Let the beer and flour get married. They get friendly.
Okay.
I'll just cover it with a cloth and just set it aside, and that's that. I probably could have time lapsed through this, but I'm almost at the end. I mean, how long? See, at that point, it's a little bit thicker, which is closer to the consistency that I was looking for.
Okay.
I think it helped it. Now it's just take the whisk over to the sink, come back with a clean towel, and let it sit for 3 hours. During which time I've got nothing else to do except go and play WoW for a while.
Makes sense.
And of course, start getting everything else out, getting the spices out and so forth. Here's those potatoes.
Yeah, but see, the potatoes are a little more crinkled up now.
Yeah.
I like that knife.
Now, that's the bunka. That's a 7-inch bunka. I'm slicing these. They're rustic. I mean, they're chips. They're not French fries. They don't need to be super thin. So on a medium-sized potato, I just make 3 slices along each direction, and that works. And just because nobody wants to look at my crinkly hands or crinkly potatoes, we'll go ahead and time lapse through this after this first potato. Which I could have just skipped right to the end and not even do a time lapse, so I wanted to play with it. Well, you've been playing with slow motion. I wanted to play with the time lapse.
I actually like that.
What, the slow mo or the time lapse?
I like both of them actually.
Yeah.
We'll have to use more of those effects coming up to save time and accentuate things, and it'll be a fun time.
Boys and their toys.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, I've had the fryer, the deep fryer warming up. But even though they advertise a 15-minute warm up, no, I heat that puppy up a half hour ahead of time.
Yeah. Whereas mine heats up in about 5 minutes, maybe 6.
Wow.
Mine heats up fast. I mean, it comes up quick.
Yeah. Now this one actually takes about 20 minutes.
I guess it also depends on what I'm going up to, right? Like typically my first fry on French fries is at 225.
Right, now it's taking this up to 375.
Right, and that 225 is my version of baking them ahead of time. And then I pull them up and I leave them in the basket while I take the fryer up to 350.
But that's the whole point.
And then I'll fry them a second time.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of baking them first and then frying is that you have a nice creamy interior and a crunchy exterior.
Yep, double frying does that too. Now, are you using anything on your outside of your fries?
Not this time. I'm just going to hit them with salt when they as soon as they come out. I didn't show that. I actually skipped past it on this. I cut past it.
Okay.
Keep the time down on this.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because for me personally, I use a light coating of cornstarch on the outsides of my fries. And it does a really good job of making sure those exteriors are super crispy. And it helps repel any water or liquid. So if I decide I want to put a little malt vinegar on the fries or something like that, keeps them crispy even with the malt vinegar. it repels the water or the liquid.
One thing I want to point out here is season your food immediately when it comes out of the fryer. That's your best time to throw salt on it.
Super important.
Now, here's a beaten egg.
Okay.
And the only seasoning going in here, besides what you saw earlier, is some smoked paprika. That's 2 teaspoons of that. Some garlic powder. Once again, 2 teaspoons. And a tablespoon and a half of baking powder.
Yeah.
And I didn't add that earlier because I didn't want the first phase of it to go away with the CO2. I didn't want the CO2 coming out until I was ready to use it. It says it's activated by both liquid and heat.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I'm curious about here is why just the salt, pepper, smoked paprika, and garlic? Why no parsley in the mix, or dill works especially well in the mix?
Yeah, dill I could. In fact, we got a ton of fresh dill now in a hydroponic garden I could have used. I just didn't think of it. But normally, other than possibly dill, I don't think of fresh herbs like that. And
well, even dried herbs would taste really good in that. Especially with like dried parsley or cilantro.
Yeah, I just don't think of herbs in a beer battered fish.
Fair enough. I do. That's why I'm asking. Obviously, when I'm making beer battered fish, I typically will get some. Some parsley in there or some cilantro.
And that was a nice thin. That's a nice thin batter. It's not super thin.
Yeah,
but
that's a very good coating, obviously.
Yeah, now
I like how you have your, I like your size of fish there that you have there too. Those are
that's
a nice size fillets.
Yeah. Now these were frozen. I bought them in a package. They come 10 to a package, and they're individually sealed, vacuum sealed, and they defrost in just a bowl of tap water in a half hour. People are going to say frozen fish. Well, unless you live on the coast, I guarantee you, all the fish you get at your meat counter is going to be previously frozen. At least all mine is. So I see nothing wrong with buying frozen fish.
If it's what you can get. I definitely find it strange that you're using your tongs to put your fish in the oil. That's a little odd.
Well, I wasn't going to use my hand. The tongs just did a little bit better. I found from experience that the tongs do a little bit better job of keeping the most batter in place when laying the fish into the oil. Now, one thing you might have noticed was that I didn't just drop the fish into the oil. I waved it back and forth first. So I let that batter start to crust up on the bottom so that when it does sink down, or if it sinks down, it doesn't stick to the fry basket. That's a common complaint that people have, is that things stick to the fry basket. Well, that's why. Let the batter, or give the batter a chance to form up first.
That batter looks good, man. That fry looks really good. I'd eat that fish.
And now it's just rinse and repeat for the next 2 pieces.
I like the time lapse again. Good stuff.
You'll see that I took a QA bite out of this one. And I did not reuse the fork. I used one fork to take a QA bite and then set that fork aside. And you'll see where that made it fun to use only a single fork to turn this last one over. I think the last one turned out the best because it was a little bit thinner. It's longer but thinner. These are really thick portions.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, so it took a little bit longer than normal to cook, but that's okay. You just have to, you got to play it by ear. As you notice, the center, that's nice and white. It was nice and flaky.
Yep. It looks good, man.
Once again, salting down while it's fresh from the oil.
Absolutely.
Another thing you might notice is that I stole another trick from Alton Brown. Hey, I watch a lot of Good Eats. Is my draining rig, I've got a cooling rack upside down on top of a paper towel.
Yeah, I saw that.
That helps to wick the oil away.
I usually just leave mine in the basket until everything drips off. I just leave it hanging in the basket. That's from my that's a technique from my old fry cook
Yeah.
days.
And there was a plate with fish, chips, and spinach.
Looked good, man. I could pass on the spinach, obviously, but I'm also a fat ass for a reason, right?
I wasn't going to say that.
I'll say it, man. I'll speak my truth. It's okay. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, no, that fish looked especially good, man. I gotta admit, it looked really good. I wanted a piece, heck. So, but
I'm not generally a fish eater, but I do like most whitefish, like cod, halibut, sole, any of those.
yeah, I am. I typically I like seafood, but I like crab, I like lobster, I like shrimp. I'm not super into most fish myself. I don't love eating most fish. I'll eat fish and chips, but you know, other than that, there's not a ton that I really want. And we'll cook it anyway on the channel, of course. But
Yeah. Well, I'm not big on seafood.
I've got a big seafood eater in the house, so
yeah, I was gonna say, but I cook it because Val loves
yeah.
shellfish.
If we can bring you guys content and please our significant others at the same time, then that's a double win for us, right?
That's right. By the way, the reason there's no taste test on mine, A, Val refuses to taste on camera. B, Randy refuses to eat fish without
Tartar sauce.
Yeah, tartar sauce, which I thought wouldn't have been a good taste test.
Why not? And tartar sauce is delicious on fried fish.
It is.
Demand some tartar sauce.
But I wanted the actual fish, the flavor of the fish itself to be what was being tasted. And I didn't taste it other than my QA bite because who would believe me? No one would take my word for it. Of course I'm going to say it's good.
Yeah. Obviously, I also think my fish was pretty good for fish. I don't love fish, but I thought it was pretty good. I would have rather eaten your plate though.
Well, thank you.
I definitely like. I like fish and chips better, right? I was trying to go for a little bit of a healthier approach, but it didn't taste as good as fish and chips does. Now, my corn and bacon succotash is freaking delicious. Jim, you've had it when you were over here.
Yeah,
you've had it before, so you know it's good. But you've had it, I think, with a pork chop, right? Isn't that what I made with it before?
Yeah, and I think I'll probably steal that recipe and see if Val cares. Although she's not big on corn, surprisingly enough.
It honestly, the corn just adds some sweetness, man. People who don't like corn will still like this, as a rule. Not everybody's gonna love it, obviously, but it's just a super flavorful bite. You can put it next to bland things and it'll brighten them up, you know.
And I could have gone with something like that instead of spinach too. It'd work.
It would have worked so good. Would have worked so good. Would have worked so much better than spinach, honestly.
I'm sorry, we like spinach with our fish. And malt vinegar. Spinach and malt vinegar.
Put down in the comments, does spinach go with fish and chips, guys? Put it in the comments.
And if you say no, you're wrong.
If you say yes, then you're wrong. Exactly. If you say yes, you're wrong. If you say it goes with it, you're wrong, and you're bad, and you should feel bad.
Well, we've taken up enough of our audience this time. This has been a little over a half hour.
Absolutely.
We didn't keep it quite as short as we would have liked, but we're trying to keep our videos down between 5 and 10 minutes. Mine went over at 13 minutes.
Yeah, mine was about 5 minutes, which was way better for me than my usual videos of 15 minutes long and 20 minutes long.
Yeah, this time I went long and he went short.
Yeah, so that probably won't happen a ton because typically, just to be frank, there's typically more going on in my plate. There's more, more absurdity going on my plate. I do weird stuff and there's a lot of steps to it, and you know what I mean. So typically my clips will be longer, but this time I made something pretty simple.
But now that we got 3 of these done, I think our viewers are starting to see that anybody can cook. You don't have to be a master chef to turn out good food.
Absolutely. And we will get out we'll get out on our social media what our next challenge is shortly, guys. I have some ideas I want to bounce off Jim. I'm sure he has some ideas he wants to bounce off of me. I think that neither of us love fish, so I want to put something in that we both love next. I'm thinking maybe like a burger or something. I'm thinking maybe your best burger or fried chicken sandwich or.
Yeah, I'm thinking cube steak myself, but
we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to do a cube steak at some point, guys. That's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And we have a request as well on one of our videos to do a chicken carbonara.
Chicken carbonara.
Yes, a chicken carbonara. So that's on the menu as well. That's coming.
I make a mean carbonara.
Yeah,
I can do that right.
I make a good carbonara as well. I have some ideas as to what I would do with my chicken as far as my chicken carbonara. And I have some really interesting ideas, some fusion ideas, as it were.
Okay.
So, all right, guys. Later. Oh, subscribe if you want to see more, guys.
Yeah,
like
please.
The video if you enjoyed it. We definitely we do this for you guys. So if you're watching this and you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Later, guys.
Later.